Hi Sharon. Right, so let's have a look at this final review of what you've got here, and we'll go through it piece by piece. First of all, on page 1, what I've changed here is I've just put some capitals in. I've kept it exactly the same, but I'll put some capitals in for the title. Page 11. Made a few changes. What I've done here is, what I've done is I've removed this part and placed it at the very beginning of the introduction. Okay, so I've put it there, and then when that's all finished, because that's not there, then I go on to the aim objectives, and then I've just slightly changed a few things about the objectives, and that's it, finished. You may not want to do that, but I just think that that brings the whole thing together and gives a nice, quite good flow and introduction to the work. Next one is now page 9. So we've done 9. Page 11. Done that. Page 12. Obviously, think about the formatting. That's going to have to go back up into this section. Yeah. Review all the formatting. I'm not too sure about this margin here either. It may be a bit tight. You may want to make that a little bit wider. Reason you want to do that is when you bind the work, it could be just too closely bound together, and then when you turn the pages, you can't read the insides here. So think about that. Page 12. 14. Next one is page 27. Yeah. I don't like conclusions until we get to the conclusions. So basically what this is, an analysis of the NEC contract. Again, it's something that I put in. Whether you want to use it or not, it's down to you. Page 28. Yeah, you need a statement, because it looks to me as if you've done a pilot study, then you did a main research, but it doesn't tell me that. Okay, so what I've put here is research design. The research was conducted in 2 phases. The first was a pilot questionnaire, etc., etc. Then you talk about this, and then you've come up with the next section below here, your pilot study. Okay, so that fits, that sort of slots that together quite well. Now I'm happy with everything else. That's all okay. I'm going to move now down to page 77. I think this is the bit that's going to make the big difference. You've done a lot of work here, a lot of good stuff, but you now need to bring it all together in your conclusion. Right. Page 77. Yeah, discussion of results. That's what that says there. And then page 79. Okay. This is where you have to stop and have a think about things. You just stop now and you go, right. Okay. You then, and you've noticed I've moved all of this down here. In this section, the conclusion start with something, some kind of statement like this, and I will say this very slowly. The research for this dissertation was conducted around the NEC contract to establish whether it has increased client satisfaction for projects within the construction industry. Full stop. To analyse this research, the following objectives were produced, which were based upon the literature review and field research. Full stop. Then you put your first objective down here, and then what you do is you fill in what the objective came up with. What did that objective find out based upon your literature review and your field research? So this is the bit that brings it all together. So what you do here is you go back, and on, how many have we got? 4 or 5 blank sheets of paper. You go back and you review all of your literature, and you find out all the main points that came out of it that related to each objective. So one piece of paper will discuss the review of the client satisfaction with the construction industry and the need for change. Yeah. and you bring all that down. Okay, so you just keep following those through, each one, and all you need is to identify the main points, the main headings, and you do one after the other, after the other, after the other. You then go back to your field research and you find out what that also found out about this objective, and then you do the next one and the next one and the next one. Then, to draw a conclusion, you do this. To answer the objective outlined, right, the field research has identified the following points that were supportive of improved client satisfaction. You just put those down, right, and then you say da da da, and then you would say, but this was also felt within the field research. The following evidence supported this proposal, but in fact it wasn't strongly supported. There were points where it was felt that this wasn't, or it was, or it might have been, or there was no clear conclusion to this. So you just do each one like that. Now each one of these objectives should be about 2, maybe 3 paragraphs. So all of this work should be no more than 3 pages. Right? When you finish the objectives, you would then say the hypothesis was tested to ensure whether the NEC contract did actually improve client satisfaction. Analysis of the results from the objectives has identified that, and then you say whatever it identified. Again, this is only 1 paragraph. And then the last one will be, the aim of this work was to identify whether the NEC contract will improve client satisfaction. Analysis of both objectives and hypothesis has clearly identified that, or it hasn't clearly identified, or it's been inconclusive, or it's been conclusive in these areas but not so in this area. So all of the time now you're relating back to the research that you conducted, and that's what you do in your conclusions. Have a go at one and send it over to me and I'll give you some feedback on it. Okay, recommendations are fine. Review this list, right? Because I think you've got some of your bibliography and your reference are apart when in fact they're all references. Yeah, a reference is anything that you've used in your work, right, that may or may not be used in the bibliography. So I think that you've done some of this here I've read, yeah, in your work. So you want to go back and review that, and I think you've got a whole reference section, not so much a bibliography. Alright? So in fact what you've got here are references, not bibliography. And it looks to me as if you've got the same book. Okay, you've got different books. Review that and see what you come back with. Alright? But I think it's just a big reference section. I hope this helps. There's not much more you have to do. I think a little bit of tidying up. Just review the formatting, review the referencing and bibliography, and take note of the things I've said. And then you just have to be able to write these conclusions. And I think that's about 2 hours work. Once as an hour work just bringing together all the main key points, and another hour work just putting it down, writing it up. Okay. I know it's a daunting task, the last bit, but from what you've done and the work you've put in, if you go back and review it, there should not be a problem. Okay. Good luck.